The betting pools were going absolutely mad. I mean, completely, utterly, spectacularly insane. Here I was, sitting in my observation pod 3 levels above the main arena floor, watching as thousands of credits changed hands faster than a Vortian sandworm during mating season. And why? Because some tiny human female had just walked into the most dangerous combat arena in the galaxy, wearing nothing but basic training clothes and a smile that could freeze plasma. "This has got to be a joke," muttered Crix beside me, his 4 eyes blinking in that rapid pattern that meant he was either very confused or very excited. Probably both. "Tell me this is some kind of elaborate prank, Vex." I adjusted my viewing scope and focused on the human below. She stood maybe 5.5 units tall, which was laughably small by galactic standards. Her hair was pulled back in what humans called a ponytail, and she was stretching like she was about to go for a casual jog instead of facing 3 tons of mechanically enhanced killing machine. "No joke, my friend," I said, checking my datapad for the 10th time in 5 minutes. "This is Lieutenant Maya Torres of the human military, 26 cycles old, combat specialist, and apparently completely out of her mind." The arena announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted species, welcome to the Galactic Combat Championships. Today, we have a most unusual matchup." Unusual? Right. That was like calling a supernova a bit bright. "In the red corner," the announcer continued, "weighing in at 3,200 pounds, standing 12 feet tall, equipped with titanium claws, reinforced exoskeleton, and enough firepower to level a city block. The destroyer of worlds. Mangle!" The crowd went absolutely wild. And I mean wild in the way that only happens when sapient beings are about to witness something that will either be legendary or catastrophic. Possibly both. Mangle emerged from his holding cell, and even I had to admit the sight was impressive. The cybernetic enhancements gleamed under the arena lights. His natural Brutok physiology was already terrifying enough, with those massive shoulders and arms that could crack stone with casual swipes. But the military upgrades, the weapon systems built into his forearms, the targeting systems that replaced his original eyes, this wasn't just a fighter. This was a walking war machine that had won 47 consecutive matches without taking significant damage. And in the blue corner, the announcer's voice took on a tone that suggested even he couldn't believe what he was about to say. Weighing in at 130 pounds, standing 5 feet 6 inches, equipped with... There was a pause. "Well, she's equipped with hands, I suppose." Representing Earth, Lieutenant Maya Torres. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some laughed, some gasped, some started placing bets so fast the electronic systems started smoking. Maya waved at the crowd like she was at a parade instead of standing in what was essentially a high-tech gladiator pit. She looked completely relaxed, which was either the mark of supreme confidence or complete insanity. In my experience with humans, those two things weren't mutually exclusive. "She's not even carrying a weapon," Crix's voice cracked with disbelief. "Look at her! She's smaller than my breakfast." I had to agree. I'd seen humans fight before, and they were certainly tougher than their appearance suggested, but this was beyond ridiculous. This was like watching someone try to stop a meteor with a butterfly net. The arena floor was standard configuration, 50 meters by 50 meters of reinforced metal plating, with energy barriers preventing anything from escaping into the crowd. Various obstacles provided cover and tactical options, though I doubted Maya would live long enough to use them. "Fighters, take your positions," the announcer called out. Mangle moved to his starting point with mechanical precision, his weapon systems already beginning to power up. The whining sound of charging plasma cannons filled the air. Maya, meanwhile, bounced on her toes a few times, rolled her shoulders, and looked for all the world like she was warming up for an exercise class. "This is it," I whispered to Crix. "Either we're about to witness the shortest fight in arena history, or what? Or we're about to learn why humans have that reputation." See, here's the thing about humans that most species don't really understand until they see it firsthand. They look soft, weak, fragile. Their skin tears easily. Their bones break. They need constant supplies of food and water and air. They're not particularly fast compared to a Zephyrian, not particularly strong compared to a Brutok, not particularly smart compared to a Centaurian. But they have this quality, this thing that makes them dangerous in ways that aren't immediately obvious. They don't just fight to win. They fight like the entire universe is personally insulting them by suggesting they might lose. "Fighters ready?" The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Mangle's targeting systems locked onto Maya with audible confirmation beeps. His plasma cannons were fully charged, his mechanical claws extended to their full menacing length. He looked like death incarnate, assuming death had decided to get some serious upgrades. Maya cracked her knuckles. I'm serious. In the face of 3,000 pounds of mechanized destruction, this tiny human female cracked her knuckles like she was about to help someone move furniture. The fight started exactly the way everyone expected it would. Mangle opened up with both plasma cannons, filling Maya's section of the arena with enough destructive energy to vaporize a small building. The crowd held its collective breath, waiting for the inevitable announcement that the fight was over, and the cleanup crews could start sweeping up whatever remained of the human. Except Maya wasn't there anymore. She had moved. Not just moved, but moved in a way that seemed to violate several laws of physics and at least one treaty regarding the proper behavior of matter in three-dimensional space. One moment she was standing in the path of enough plasma to melt through ship hull, and the next moment she was elsewhere. Where did she go? Crix was scanning the arena frantically. "There," I pointed. Maya had somehow covered 20 meters in the time it took Mangle's targeting systems to register that they'd missed. She was crouched behind one of the barrier walls, completely unharmed and wearing that same casual smile. Mangle's mechanical brain processed this information with typical Brutok adaptability, which is to say, he got very angry and started shooting everything in sight. Plasma bolts scorched the arena floor as he swept his weapons back and forth, trying to flush Maya out from cover. That's when she did something that made the entire crowd go silent. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, or a desperate laugh, or even a crazy laugh. She laughed like Mangle had just told her the best joke she'd heard all day. And then she called out in perfect galactic standard, "Is that really the best you've got? Because I've seen training droids with better aim." The insult was delivered with such cheerful confidence that even I felt a little offended on Mangle's behalf. Mangle's response was to charge. All 3,000 pounds of enhanced Brutok fury came thundering across the arena floor, mechanical claws sparking against the metal plating, targeting systems locked onto Maya's position. He moved with the kind of unstoppable momentum that had earned him his fearsome reputation. Maya waited until he was exactly 3 meters away, then stepped aside. Just stepped aside, like she was avoiding a puddle. Mangle crashed into the barrier wall with enough force to shake the entire arena. Chunks of reinforced metal went flying. The crowd gasped. Emergency systems activated. And Maya, completely unharmed, patted Mangle on what passed for his shoulder. "Nice try, big guy. Want to go again?" That's when I realized we might be watching something truly special. Mangle spun around faster than something that size had any right to move, swiping at Maya with claws that could shred starship armor. Maya ducked, weaved, and somehow managed to avoid every strike while staying close enough to Mangle that his ranged weapons couldn't target her without risking damage to himself. "She's using his size against him," I murmured, watching in fascination. "She's staying inside his reach, where the big weapons can't track her." "But she's not doing any damage," Crix pointed out. "How is she going to actually win this fight?" Good question. Maya was certainly avoiding getting killed, which was more than anyone had expected, but Mangle's armor plating was thick enough to shrug off military-grade explosives. What could a 130-pound human possibly do to actually hurt him? That's when Maya grabbed one of Mangle's mechanical fingers and twisted. The sound that followed was like a symphony of tortured metal mixed with electronic screaming, and what might have been genuine surprise from Mangle himself. Maya had somehow found a joint in his mechanical enhancements and applied leverage in exactly the right way to cause significant structural damage. How did she know where to twist? Crix was leaning forward in his seat, completely captivated. "She's been watching him fight," I realized. "Look at her eyes. She's not just avoiding his attacks, she's studying them. She's figuring out how his enhancements work." Mangle roared and swung his other arm in a wide arc that should have turned Maya into paste. Instead, she grabbed his wrist, used his own momentum to flip herself up and over his arm, and landed on his back like some kind of demented acrobat. From there, she began systematically dismantling 3,000 pounds of military-grade death machine with her bare hands. I wish I could adequately describe what happened next, but the truth is that most of it happened too fast for even the arena's high-speed cameras to capture properly. Maya moved across Mangle's back like she had a detailed schematic of every vulnerable point in his construction. She pulled cables, twisted joints, and somehow managed to short out his left-side weapon systems just by jamming her finger into exactly the right spot. Mangle tried everything. He rolled, trying to crush her against the arena floor. She hung on and kept working. He spun, trying to throw her off through centrifugal force. She adjusted her grip and found new things to break. He slammed himself backwards into the arena walls, trying to smash her between his bulk and the reinforced barriers. Maya just laughed and kept dismantling him piece by piece. "This is impossible," Crix whispered. "She's taking apart a military-grade combat cyborg with her bare hands." "Apparently, not that impossible," I replied, watching Maya disconnect something that caused Mangle's right arm to go completely limp. The crowd was going absolutely insane. Half of them were cheering for Maya, caught up in the impossible spectacle of it all. The other half were screaming at Mangle to just step on her or something. But Mangle couldn't step on her because she was on his back, systematically reducing him from a fearsome war machine to an increasingly dysfunctional collection of spare parts. Then Maya did something that made my blood freeze. She found Mangle's main power coupling. Now, you have to understand, a Brutox's mechanical enhancements are powered by a fusion cell that generates enough energy to run a small city. The power coupling is the single most protected, most heavily shielded, most impossible to reach component in the entire system. It's buried deep inside layers of armor plating and protected by fail-safes that would kill anyone who tried to tamper with it. Maya looked at it for exactly 3 seconds, smiled, and ripped the whole assembly out with her bare hands. The arena went completely silent as Mangle's mechanical systems shut down one by one. The targeting systems went dark. The weapon arrays powered down. The reinforced exoskeleton became just dead weight. In the space of 15 minutes, Maya had reduced the most feared fighter in the galaxy to a very large, very confused, and completely harmless Brutok, in a metal suit he could no longer control. Mangle stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Then he looked back over his shoulder at Maya, who was still perched on his back, like some kind of tiny, terrifying monkey. "Do you yield?" she asked politely. Mangle considered this for a long moment. Then, in a voice that mixed respect with complete bewilderment, he said, "I yield." Maya hopped down from his back, helped him sit down on the arena floor, and actually patted him on what was left of his functional shoulder. "Good fight," she said. "You almost had me there for a minute." The crowd exploded into cheers that could probably be heard from orbit. I sat there in my observation pod, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Maya Torres, weighing less than most species teenagers, had just defeated the most dangerous fighter in the galaxy, without using a single weapon, without taking a single hit, and while maintaining a cheerful attitude that suggested she'd just finished a pleasant morning jog. "The winner," announced the arena announcer, his voice filled with the kind of awe usually reserved for religious experiences. "By submission, Lieutenant Maya Torres." Maya waved at the crowd again, looking exactly as relaxed as she had at the beginning of the fight. If anything, she looked refreshed, like the whole experience had been a nice warm-up exercise. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer continued, "we have just witnessed a new arena record. Fastest victory over a Class A enhanced fighter. Most creative dismantling technique. And—" there was a pause as he consulted his notes. "Most polite post-fight conversation." I looked at Crix, who was staring at the arena floor with his mouth hanging open. "What just happened?" he asked. "I think," I said slowly, "we just learned why humans are considered a dangerous species." But as Maya Torres walked off the arena floor, waving at the cheering crowd, and looking like she hadn't even broken a sweat, I had the distinct feeling that this was just the beginning. After all, the arena championships had 7 more rounds. The next morning brought chaos to the entire station. I woke up to find 17 different news crews camped outside my quarters, 6 interview requests on my personal communicator, and a betting slip that had somehow increased in value by 3,000% overnight. The entire galaxy, it seemed, had heard about Maya Torres and her impossible victory. "This is insane," Crixie said, squeezing through the crowd of reporters to reach my breakfast table. "They're calling her everything from the human hurricane to the tiny terror, to something in Zephyrian that translates roughly to she who makes large things fall down." I scrolled through the morning news feeds while trying to eat. Every major network was running the story. Sports analysts were frantically trying to explain how Maya had dismantled Mangle. Military experts were debating whether this represented some new human combat technique. Philosophers were writing lengthy articles about the implications of size not mattering in physical confrontations. "Look at this," I said, showing Crix my data pad. The arena medical team ran a full scan on Maya after the fight. Want to know what they found? Enlighten me. No cybernetic enhancements, no genetic modifications, no performance drugs, no hidden weapons or tools. She's completely, 100% unmodified human female. Crix nearly choked on his nutrient paste. "That's impossible. Nobody defeats a Class A enhanced fighter with just biology." Apparently, somebody does. The arena management had moved Maya's next fight to the main championship bowl, which could hold 50,000 spectators instead of the usual 10,000. Every seat had sold out within 3 hours of going on sale. The secondary market was seeing prices that could fund a small colony. Maya's second opponent was announced that afternoon. Razor, a Zentorian assassin whose species had evolved on a high-gravity world where everything wanted to kill everything else. Zentorians were naturally faster than most starships, stronger than construction equipment, and had reflexes that made hummingbirds look sluggish. Razor had won 31 consecutive fights, most of them ending in less than 10 seconds. "She's doomed," Crix said flatly. "Zentorians are built for speed. There's no way she can avoid something that fast." But I wasn't so sure. Something about Maya's complete confidence bothered me. Nobody walked into a death match against impossible odds wearing a smile unless they knew something the rest of us didn't. The arena was packed beyond capacity. I'd managed to keep my observation pod, but every other viewing position was filled with beings from across the galaxy, all wanting to see if yesterday's miracle could possibly happen again. The energy in the air was electric, literally in some cases, given the number of species present who generated bioelectric fields when excited. Maya entered the arena wearing the same simple training clothes, the same casual smile, and the same complete lack of visible weapons or equipment. The crowd went wild the moment she appeared. Signs had sprouted in a dozen languages, all supporting the human who had done the impossible. Razor entered from the opposite side, and the temperature in the arena seemed to drop several degrees. Zentorians were intimidating even when they weren't trying. 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, with 4 arms that ended in claws sharp enough to cut through molecular bonds. When they were trying to be intimidating, like Razor clearly was, they looked like nightmares given physical form. "This fight will be different," the announcer declared. "Today's arena configuration includes elevated platforms, energy barriers, and gravity wells. Fighters may use any part of the environment to their advantage." The arena floor had been completely reconfigured. Instead of a simple flat surface, there were multiple levels connected by ramps and bridges. Energy barriers created temporary walls that could be activated or deactivated. Most impressive were the gravity wells, areas where local gravity could be adjusted from 0 to 3 times standard. Maya looked around the complex battlefield like a child examining a new playground. She actually clapped her hands together in apparent delight. "She looks happy," I muttered. "She looks insane," Crix corrected. "Fighters, take your positions." Razor moved to his starting point with liquid grace, every movement precise and economical. His 4 arms moved independently, each one testing different attack angles. His head swiveled constantly, calculating distances and trajectories. Maya bounced on her toes again, stretched her arms above her head, and yawned. "Begin!" Razor moved faster than my eyes could track. One moment he was at his starting position, the next he was airborne, all 4 clawed hands reaching for Maya with killing intent. His species could accelerate to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. Maya stepped backward, grabbed a control lever, and activated a gravity well directly in Razor's path. The Zentorian, suddenly weighing 3 times normal, crashed into the arena floor hard enough to crack the reinforced plating. He recovered almost instantly, because Zentorians were tough as well as fast. But his perfect attack had been completely ruined. "Lucky," Crix said. But it wasn't luck. Maya was already moving toward the next control panel, and I realized she'd spent the entire pre-fight period memorizing the arena layout. She knew where every control was, where every platform led, where every gravity well could be activated. Razor snarled and charged again, this time staying low to avoid the gravity traps. His claws sparked against the metal flooring as he built up speed. Maya waited until the last possible moment, then vaulted over a safety barrier and landed on one of the elevated platforms. Razor leaped after her, covering the vertical distance in a single bound. But when he landed on the platform, Maya was already gone, having swung down on one of the support cables to a lower level. She's not fighting him, I realized. She's playing tag. And she was winning. For the next 5 minutes, Maya led Razor on a chase through the arena's complex layout. Every time he got close, she used the environment to escape. Gravity wells slowed him down. Energy. Barriers blocked his path. Platform configurations forced him to take longer routes while she found shortcuts. The crowd was going absolutely mad. This wasn't the quick, brutal fight everyone had expected. This was a three-dimensional game of cat and mouse, except the mouse was clearly enjoying herself while the cat was getting increasingly frustrated. Razor finally stopped chasing and tried a different strategy. He positioned himself in the center of the arena and roared a challenge in his native language, which the translation systems rendered as something like, "Face me honorably, tiny coward." Maya, hanging upside down from a support cable about 20 feet above him, laughed. "Coward? I'm not the one with 4 arms and natural armor plating. Then come down here and fight." "Okay," Maya said cheerfully, and let go of the cable. She fell straight toward Razor, who raised all 4 arms to catch and crush her. But instead of falling into his grasp, Maya grabbed another cable at the last second, swung in a wide arc, and kicked Razor in the back of the head with both feet while traveling at considerable velocity. Razor stumbled forward, more surprised than hurt. Zentorian skulls were thick enough to stop bullets. But Maya wasn't trying to hurt him with the kick. She was trying to knock him off balance, and she succeeded. Razor windmilled his 4 arms, trying to regain his footing, and stepped directly onto one of the gravity well controls that Maya had left activated. Suddenly weighing nearly half a ton, the Zentorian crashed through the platform he was standing on and fell to the lower level. Maya dropped down after him, landing lightly on the twisted wreckage of the platform. Razor was struggling to get back to his feet under the increased gravity, his movements sluggish and awkward. "Having trouble?" Maya asked politely. Razor snarled and tried to swipe at her, but his arms moved like they were underwater. Maya danced around his claws easily, staying just out of reach while he exhausted himself fighting the gravity field. "This is brilliant," I whispered to Crix. "She's using his own strength against him. The stronger he is, the more the increased gravity affects him." "But she's in the same gravity field," Crix pointed out. "No, look at her feet." Maya was indeed in the gravity well, but she was moving differently than Razor. Instead of fighting against the increased gravity, she was using it. Her steps were shorter, but more precise. She wasn't trying to overpower the field, she was adapting to it. Meanwhile, Razor was burning through his energy reserves trying to move normally under conditions his body wasn't designed for. Zentorians were built for speed and agility, not for operating under crushing gravitational fields. After 10 minutes of increasingly sluggish attempts to catch Maya, Razor finally collapsed to his knees, panting with exhaustion. "Do you yield?" Maya asked, crouching down to his eye level. Razor looked at her for a long moment, his 4 arms trembling with fatigue. Then he did something that shocked the entire arena. He laughed. "You never intended to fight me at all, did you?" he asked. "Fighting is about winning," Maya replied, "not about looking impressive while you do it." "I yield," Razor said, respect clear in his voice. "You fought smarter, not harder. I honor that." Maya helped him to his feet and deactivated the gravity well. As soon as the field disappeared, Razor's natural grace returned, but he made no move to resume hostilities. "Good match," Maya said, shaking one of his forehands. "You're incredibly fast. Under normal conditions, you would have caught me in the first 30 seconds. "But you made sure the conditions weren't normal," Razor replied. "Clever." The crowd's reaction was even more intense than the previous day. Maya had won again, using completely different tactics, against a completely different type of opponent. But more than that, she'd won while making it look almost effortless. "Two down," I said to Crix, as we watched Maya wave to the cheering crowd. 6 to go. The next 3 fights followed a similar pattern, but each one showcased a different aspect of Maya's abilities. Against a heavily armored Throkian warrior, she used the arena's energy barriers to create a maze, then systematically wore down her opponent's endurance by making him chase her through narrow passages where his bulk worked against him. Against a void swimmer who could phase through solid matter, she used electromagnetic fields to disrupt his phasing ability, then defeated him in straight hand-to-hand combat when he was forced to remain corporeal. Against a cybernetic hive mind collective, she identified the central processing unit through careful observation and targeted it specifically, causing the entire collective to shut down. Each victory was more impressive than the last, not because of raw power or speed, but because of intelligence, adaptability, and that peculiar human tendency to find unconventional solutions to impossible problems. By the time Maya reached the semifinals, she was the most famous being in the galaxy. Merchandise was being sold. Documentary crews were following her every move. Universities were offering courses in Torres combat theory. The semifinal opponent was announced as Void Killer Prime, a mechanically enhanced super soldier from a warrior culture that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of combat. He had never lost a fight. He had never even been injured in a fight. Military analysts considered him the perfect fighting machine. "This is it," Crix said, as we took our seats for what everyone expected to be Maya's final fight. "She's been incredible, but Void Killer Prime is in a different category entirely. He's not just strong or fast or tough. He's all of those things. Plus, he's been programmed with every combat technique in galactic history." I had to agree. Void Killer Prime entered the arena like walking. Death. 12 feet tall, covered in advanced armor that could deflect starship weapons, armed with integrated energy weapons and melee systems that could adapt to any fighting style. He moved with mechanical precision that never wasted motion or energy. Maya entered the arena, looked up at her massive opponent, and grinned. "Well," she said loudly enough for the crowd to hear, "this should be fun." The arena configuration for the semi-final was completely different again. This time, it was a simple circular platform suspended over an energy field. No obstacles, no environmental controls, no gravity wells. Just 2 fighters, and nowhere to run. Void Killer Prime spoke for the first time, his voice a mechanical drone that somehow conveyed absolute confidence. "I have analyzed your previous fights, human. Your tactics rely on environmental advantages and opponent fatigue. Neither will be available in this configuration. You cannot win." Maya cracked her knuckles again. "Want to bet?" "I do not gamble. I calculate probabilities. Your probability of victory is 0%. Math was never my best subject anyway." "Begin!" Void Killer Prime moved with mechanical efficiency, bringing up his integrated shields while charging his weapon systems. Maya charged straight at him, which was exactly what nobody expected her to do. She'd spent 5 fights using clever tactics and environmental advantages. Now, facing the most dangerous opponent in the tournament, she was trying to fight him directly. It looked like suicide. Void Killer Prime's calculations had anticipated dozens of possible strategies Maya might employ. Direct frontal assault wasn't one of them, because direct frontal assault against him was mathematically impossible to survive. Maya hit Void Killer Prime's energy shield at full speed and bounced off. She flew backward, landed hard on the platform, and lay there for a moment looking dazed. Probability of victory remains 0%, Void Killer Prime announced, powering up his finishing weapons. This outcome was inevitable. Maya sat up, shook her head to clear it, and smiled. You know what your problem is? I do not have problems. I have objectives and solutions. Your problem, Maya continued, getting back to her feet, is that you think like a machine. I am a machine. This is optimal. No, Maya said, charging at him again. It really isn't. This time, when she hit the energy shield, something different happened. Instead of bouncing off, she grabbed onto it somehow and began climbing. Up the outside of Void Killer Prime's defensive systems using handholds that shouldn't have existed. This is impossible, the mechanical warrior stated, his calculations frantically trying to process what he was seeing. Energy shields are not solid surfaces. Tell that to the shield, Maya replied cheerfully, now scrambling across the top of his defensive barrier. That's when I realized what she was doing. Maya had studied Void Killer Prime's previous fights just as carefully as he'd studied hers. She'd noticed something that his mechanical brain had overlooked. His energy shields were designed to stop high-energy impacts and weapons fire. They weren't designed to stop something that treated them like a jungle gym. Maya dropped down inside Void Killer Prime's defensive perimeter, landing directly on his armored shoulders. How? Void Killer Prime's mechanical voice actually sounded confused. This violates established combat parameters. That's the thing about parameters, Maya said, beginning to examine his armor plating with professional interest. They're really more like suggestions. What followed was the most systematic dismantling of a combat system I'd ever witnessed. Maya didn't try to break through Void Killer Prime's armor. Instead, she found the maintenance panels. She didn't try to overpower his mechanical systems. Instead, she started disconnecting them in the specific sequence that would cause cascading failures. Void Killer Prime spun and thrashed, trying to dislodge her, but Maya held on with the tenacity that humans were famous for. She worked methodically, talking to herself as she went. Okay, this cable controls targeting. Disconnect. This one manages power distribution. Disconnect. This panel accesses the primary processing unit. And disconnect. One by one, Void Killer Prime's systems shut down. His weapons powered off. His enhanced speed protocols deactivated. His analytical capabilities began generating error messages. This is not combat, he protested, his voice beginning to slur as processing power decreased. This is mechanical maintenance. Combat is whatever gets the job done, Maya replied, pulling out what looked like his primary memory core. Besides, I used to be a mechanic before I joined the military. Void Killer Prime stood perfectly still for a moment, then toppled over backward like a felled tree. His mechanical systems were still functional, but without the processing power to coordinate them, he was essentially a very expensive collection of spare parts. Maya hopped down from his chest and dusted off her hands. Do you yield? I, Dot. Void Killer Prime's voice was slow and confused. My programming does not contain protocols for this scenario. That's okay, Maya said kindly. Take your time. After a long pause, the mechanical voice said, I yield. This outcome was not predicted in any of my calculations. That's because you can't calculate human stubbornness, Maya replied. Trust me, we've tried. The crowd's reaction was beyond anything I'd ever experienced. The sound was so loud that the arena's structural supports began to vibrate. Maya Torres, the small human female who shouldn't have been able to defeat anyone in single combat, had just reached the championship final by treating the galaxy's most advanced combat system like a broken speeder that needed repair. As Maya waved to the crowd, I realized that we were witnessing something historic. Not just a sporting event, but a demonstration of what made humans dangerous in ways that couldn't be measured or calculated. The final fight was scheduled for the next day. Maya's opponent would be the current champion, Devastator, a being so dangerous that his species' name was classified. His homeworld was quarantined, and his previous fights were studied by military academies as examples of perfect lethality. But as I watched Maya Torres leave the arena, still smiling, still looking like she was having the time of her life, I found myself thinking that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was about to learn something new about the concept of impossible. The championship final was going to be very interesting indeed.